In federal government contracting, how do you actually market your small business if your goal is to grow your business with real contract wins?
The way to market your business, if you really are trying to win and you're really trying to do this, is, I would say, number one, write these down. Number one, find who is buying the most of what you want to sell or offer, or maybe already do sell and offer through your business. Find which agencies are buying the most of that. Those become your targets, meaning you could focus on other places, but you're choosing and deciding to focus here for that reason. They're buying the most of those NAICS codes, for example. And then you start to respond to those offices and those officers again and again and again in a targeted and repeated way, because they are buying the most of the goods and services that you offer and sell. It's not something that happens overnight, and it's not sexy, but it is the core, fundamental, and logical thing that you need to do. And what I always say is you don't do direct marketing, you do indirect marketing. And what indirect marketing is through showing up to bid in front of the people who have the money, who have the budgets, and are buying the most of the thing that you are bidding on. And as you show up time and time and time again, even if you're not winning, right, they're getting to see how you're showing up. They're getting to see that you're showing up. And this conveys to them that you are a professional and that they can trust you, and that it's only a matter of time before you're going to be awarded a contract through sheer targeting and consistency. That's what I call marketing your government contracting business.
What do others say you should do to market your business in government contracting, and why do you disagree with them?
So others, mainly many, loud, influential voices in the industry, would tell you to respond to sources sought notices, would tell you to attend as many government contracting conferences as possible, would tell you to put a lot of time, effort, and even money into developing a craftsman level capability statement, and that you should also, do other things like put a lot into your website, make sure you get on a GSA schedule before you do anything else. Have you noticed anything in that list that continues to grow that I'm naming of what others tell you to do? Have you noticed that there's no room for bidding in there? Right? There's no room for targeted research. There's no room for action, really. These are all great things to hide behind, and they would tell you that this is marketing. This is why marketing budgets, guys, are the first things to get slashed. I'm talking about in the commercial space, not even government contracting. It's because if it cannot justify itself, right? Marketing should not cost you anything. Okay? Because if you're putting in $1 in and you're getting $1.50 out, there was no cost. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not taking one step forward to go 2 steps back. Okay? You're taking 1 step back to go 3 steps forward. So it's this stuff that people say. I've done it. I call it the carnival. And the whole goal is for them to take money out of your wallet, and they will leave you penniless, budgetless at the very least to spend any more in the federal space. Even software and all this stuff, right? There's a place for certain things. But when there's not enough room for the fundamentals, as I just covered at the beginning of this video, something is wrong here. And somebody is profiting off of you. And every single person watching this video could be nodding their head because they've received at least one email or one phone call and maybe dozens to pair them up with one of these things that would not move them forward. Marketing would not move them forward closer to a contract win, but it would make them lighter in their bank accounts. So that's kind of why I disagree with it, and very much what others, especially in the industry, would tell you to do.
Is it essential to have a strong capability statement to marketing your business and write proposals?
Yeah, this is as much I will go into capability statements. It's good to have them. If contracting asks you for one, maybe you need to update one to send it. It's good to have it. It's good to not have to take a few days to put something together or to have somebody to put something together for your business. it's good to have it because if you need it, you don't want to find yourself not having it, right? But beyond that, especially when we're getting in terms of proposals, 99% of the time, you are not going to be asked for a capability statement as part of your proposal response. 1% of the time you may. Okay, I have seen it. But that's like, having somebody put down new sod in your home. Okay, they're going to lay some new grass because the whatever insects have eaten it. And instead of you kind of getting a rundown of what product they're going to be using, how long it's going to take, what you need to do to maintain that sod that they put down so that you're not just spending thousands of dollars for it to die in a month, right? Instead of you getting that information, you're just asking them for their one pager for their company. Is that going to be helpful to you to get some, even if they tailor it a little bit, is that going to answer your questions? Is that going to give you the confidence that you need? Their one pager for their company? Of course not. Well, that's what your capability statement is in the federal space. And so that's why 99% of the time they're asking for more than your capability statement in a proposal. They want to see the who, the what, the when, the why, the how answered in your proposal so that they can have confidence whether or not they want to work with you or not.
What role does your company website play in government contracting?
Pretty much the same as the CAPE statement. It's good to have your CAPE statement downloadable from your website. It's good to have your CAGE code and your NAICS codes on your website. If you already have a commercial-based website, create a federal contracting tab that shares that information, along with any projects that you want to use. That's great. That's cool. It's the 21st century. You should have something. Wix is a thing now. Okay, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to spend thousands or tens of thousands of dollars on a website. So there's not really any excuse not to have one. And just like the capability statement, you don't want to not have one if, and it's also equally helpful for teaming. Like if you're calling around trying to build a team, getting quotes, you need to be credible. You need to have some sort of presence. And also having a website is helpful for that. Some of you watching this, maybe you can attest to having one and it being helpful, or not having one and realizing it could have been helpful, right? These are some of the things where the website can come in. But coming back to a proposal or any sort of formal thing, you do not need a website. Many win contracts without even having a website. I would rather have you bid on contracts for the next 3 months and then take a week and knock out your CAPE statement and your website after the busy season. Like I would much prefer that. That's the amount of kind of effort and emphasis that I would place on these items as it relates to marketing your business.
How important are set-asides like women-owned, veteran-owned, 8A, and HubZone to be able to market your business?
They're not very important. When you're a small business government contractor, you are automatically considered total small business as long as your company revenue is below whatever that dollar threshold or employee threshold is. But for most, it's the dollar threshold that's associated with your primary NAICS code. Maybe it's 9 million, maybe it's 12, maybe it's 20 million, right? So those who have won a few contracts and they're looking to go to the next level, you're well below what your size standard would be. Essentially that chalk line on the concrete that if you cross it, you're no longer a small business. You've got a half a mile to go before you even get close enough to that chalk line in the concrete. That's not what you need to worry about. You need to put your head down, research, target, bid, and loop that, get better and better at that so that you improve at writing proposals, pricing, building teams, and the speed and the efficiency through which you approach that. So 8A, woman-owned, HubZone, veteran-owned. Have you guys ever heard this phrase, those who pay attention? As I just covered, what is required in order for you to qualify for the total small business set aside? You have to breathe air. Okay, you have to have a pulse, In realistic terms, you have to have a CAGE code, and that's about it. Okay, you don't have to do anything. The 8A, it's going to be a 3 to 6 month process, application. Might need someone to help you with it. Might need to pay them some money. Maybe not. For the veteran-owned, the VOSB, SDVOSB, maybe similar. HubZone's not a walk in the park. Woman-owned is probably the easiest. But even after you go through all of that, what does that grant you? What do you gain from that? Okay, now you gain access to set-aside contracts, which means you are gaining access to a pool of bidders, reduced pool of bidders. So it's reduced because only those of you who have it can go after it. It's reduced, but it's more competitive. So you get put into the piranha tank because people who are veteran-owned, they really want to use that VOSB, right? They really want to go after those VA contracts. Versus total small, it's like nobody's really kind of claiming it. And to get started out, just to have something automatic where you're not in a reduced but more competitive pool, it's a pretty good place to start out. So I don't think it's very important that you pursue these when you first start out. I think they're about as important as they are as protein shakes when you're lifting weights. I think you should emphasize food, trying to hit your macros, get quality food in, and if you need a supplement here and there, take one. You're out on the road, take one. But it should not be your primary focus.
What's your opinion on GSA schedules for the new contractors growing and marketing their business?
You can't do it. Okay, so just don't. Don't do the GSA schedule. Don't do it. Okay, you need to be in business for 2 years. You need to be able to show revenue for 2 years anyways. So just get that out of your head. And if you have a commercial-based business, run. Put on your Nikes, put on your Jordans, lace them up tight, and run as far away as a GSA schedule as you possibly can. If you have not won 10 to 20 contracts, run as hard as you've ever run in your whole life away from a GSA schedule. I don't know how much more clear I can make it. I receive emails monthly, on a monthly basis. People who have no idea what they're doing. They got the call though. They got the advertisement, right? Get on the GSA schedule. We're looking for companies in the state of New York and the state of Virginia, okay? Then you go through the process, you pay the money, and then you got a 2-year window to win contracts. Otherwise, they kick you off, and it's all for naught. It's all for nothing. But you don't even know, you don't know how to do government proposals. You have somebody help you with your pricing catalogs for your SINs and your NAICS codes and whatever you're qualifying for in your mass. You have no idea what you're doing. Okay, go after total small business, get your cage code, play on SAM for the next 2 years for free instead. Win 10 to 20 contracts. Take 12 months to do that, and then go after the darn GSA schedule. Okay, so just run away as fast as you can.
Bonus question. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes, easy. I say yes. Always been a big fan of Hawaiian-based pizzas. When I order pizza, I'm more of a pepperoni, yellow pepper, black olive guy. That's kind of my secret mix. But if someone orders a pizza or we order something that has pineapple on it, I'm all for it. So guys, marketing, direct marketing versus indirect marketing, none of it matters if you can't actually bid on, write proposals, and win contracts. My thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I've set the first 3 modules to GovRFP free. We had some questions about downloads. Yes, downloads are in there. You just have to open up your eyes and check those out, okay? There's module 1, 2, 3, and a whole bunch of lessons inside of each, and you can get that right now by visiting my website. That website is GovKidMethod.com. Been around for quite a while now. Just click on the GovRFP tab, and all you need is an email address to get in and start going through the training for free. What else we got going on? Smash the like button for the algorithm, even though I don't believe there's an algorithm anymore. It's something that we're all supposed to say that I'll probably stop saying, but leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of this video. If you're one of these people that, well, if you disagree with me, get in line. I guess there's a lot of people that disagree with me. My goal here, guys, is to give you the real answers. There's so much fluff out there. So at times I can be a little bit sharp around the edges, but that's to save you time and to save you stress and to save you attention and focus and challenges and frustration. I'm trying to save you that because I've been through it and I've worked with hundreds of small businesses in our bid challenge program, which you can also find on GovKidMethod, that we help save them and give you the A to B. The shortest path anywhere is a straight line. If you don't want to have to go to the carnival and pay just to get in and go through all the things the industry wants you to go through, which is maybe a good advice for an established government contractor who's been doing it for 5 years. But if you're someone who's trying to win more contracts or maybe your first, my advice remains sound. So let me know in the comments what you thought. We're one of the fastest growing YouTube channels in the federal contracting space. So join us, subscribe to the channel. That way you don't miss out on future trainings just like today. And until next time, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.